You're listening to episode 570 of the Father Bales podcast. Welcome back to this episode of the Father Bales podcast. This time around, we have a kind of a different homily, not one that's for everybody, because I'll be speaking about our new bold project to rebuild our church. And so this is the homily that was given to help increase awareness, basically announce of our capital campaign that is the initial part of the rebuilding of the church. And so this is the homily entitled, Honoring Our Past, Building Our Future. In today's scriptures, we heard two things that I'd like to bring to your attention as kind of an introduction to my homily. In St. Paul's second letter to Timothy, he challenges the people to remember that, quote, God did not give us a spirit of cowardice, but rather of power and love and self-control. That means we are to boldly live our lives of faith and not be victims of others, but be passionate while also maintaining free will. There's no manipulation involved in love. In addition, we heard from the Gospel of St. Luke that we as servants, there was a servant specifically in this story, he was doing what he was called to do, and he shouldn't be looking for accolades. He was simply doing the work which he was called to do. These two scriptures are helpful for me when thinking about our proposed new church building project. And I'd like to speak to you directly about that today. I've heard at length from the community, and our feasibility study has shown that there is a great swell of desire for a new church, not simply a remodeled one. And there's many reasons after studies to determine why that is. And so, when given such a task, should I shy away from it because it is difficult? Should I be a coward and dismiss the community's desires because I'm a chicken? Nobody likes asking for money. Did God give us the power, the ability to undertake such a task? I must ask myself, and am I up for it? I recognize that I must always recognize and honor the community and the decisions herein, especially when it is confirmed through the Holy Spirit. Now, I do not pretend to know the will of God, but I must say this: we will never know the will of God if we do not try. If we do not put our whole heart and mind into whatever it is we're doing, do not be surprised that it fails. What football team wins when they have a half-baked practice? What choir does their best when they're not even practicing? And only then, when we know that we have done our best, their fruits will be the proof. It was God's will. It happened. Or, I was not good enough, even though I tried my best, and that's the way it is. So in that spirit, I'd like to share my heart and some details about what has been discerned thus far. From 3 years of discernment, 3 years of planning. First of all, I'd like to let you know, maybe some of you who are new, St. Anne dates back all the way to 1897. That's 119 years. And for that time, our church has been ministering to the needs of this community, our faith community, and at large, with a very great driving force. Despite, though, our strong heritage and all our accomplishments and the conversions and the healings that have happened in our community, we have still many challenges. I often say that we as a community, a church, is a hospital of sinners. We come here because we're broken. We come here because we have made mistakes and messed up and we need healing. Well, similarly is the case here. This church needs help. And it can only be done by ourselves with the grace of the Holy Spirit. So we know that the foundation and the centerpiece of our Catholic faith is the sacraments, and especially the Eucharist. This church This current church was built in 1959. It is woefully inadequate for the celebration of the sacraments, and particularly the Eucharist. All I have to do is stand over here, and I look over to the right-hand side, and you can't see anything at the altar. The fact that there is even a left side is highly problematic. How many churches have you seen that are in this position, arranged just like this? There was another one in our diocese that started it, St. John the Apostle in Oregon City, and they could only withstand it for a year. We've been doing it for 60. And unfortunately, what has happened is an exception has caused us to think that this is the way it should be. My friends, I'm here to shake us up. This is not the way a church is supposed to be built. I have taken actually classes on how churches are to be built. This was one of the examples in the class of the worst example that there is in the diocese. When I was instituted as the pastor here and welcomed the vicar of the area, who was kind of the boss, he said to me privately before walking into the church for the ceremony, "Welcome to the ugliest church in the Archdiocese of Portland." I'm like, thanks. Yeah. But I don't take personal, that's not a personal dig. There's been people through the years, 61 years ago, that have put their blood, sweat, and tears to make this happen. Because without this, we would not have anything. We had a small church on C Street, and we outgrew it. This is way better than that. I talked to Bob Bush. Many of you know him. Let's just call him the senior citizen that knows almost everything about this church. When talking to him about our issues, one of them is our roof. It's a beautiful roof. It weighs tons. It's too heavy for this building. You don't want to be in this building when a trembler occurs. You know what I mean by trembler? Yeah, an earthquake. You might be afraid of those windows. Believe me, you don't have to worry about the windows when the ceiling comes down upon you. Now, that's not why we're rebuilding. The goal of rebuilding is a liturgical one. This is different than probably most other churches in the diocese. And I sat down with our archbishop and I explained it to him. And I said, hey, you've been here. You know firsthand how weird this is, that when preaching, there's people behind you. Hi, there are people behind us. And I tell our new priests, be careful when you preach because you have to then talk both sides. You might get whiplash. You don't want whiplash. Last week, I gave a homily. It was a fun homily. People got some cups of the Oregon State Beavers. That was kind of fun. But whenever I turned to the west side, the east side people, you didn't hear me. And vice versa, when I turned to the other side, you did not hear me. I got comments about that, right? I should never have to turn my back on you. So here's the plan. The first thing is, let's get all the pews in one direction. That way. We're going to turn all the pews in this new church this way. And then, of course, the altar will be on this side of the church, the west side. But let me not jump to the gun for the total details at this moment. Let's start with when you walk in the church. What's the problem there? Well, the problem with our entrances is there's two of them. What church has two entrances? Even churches in the round have one entrance, but it's multiple doors on the same side. You come in this way on the west, you come in this way on the east. Which way do you leave? The same way you came in. Do you ever get to talk to each other? It takes effort. We are literally divided because of the way the building is constructed. It was never intended, by the way, to be built like this. This building was intended to be built with pews one direction. God bless our pastor at the time, Father Kelly. He demanded it would be this way. And at that time, that might have been sufficient. In 2016, the norms of the church are very clear. We need to be building a church where we're going one way, or if it's semi-round, not completely round, so there's people behind me. Archbishop Sample, when he came, refused to preach here at the Ambo. Why? Because there's people behind him. He then went to the chair, which is a reasonable place. It's another place you can preach. I can go over there too, but he chose to preach there. The only time he came up here, because I had a script in Spanish, and he had to come up here to do it. So the narthexes create, first of all, two sides, and then we have two sides of the pews. 95% of everybody sits on the side. Only the real saints sit in the center. All three pews of them. Think about it. What church has only 3 pews in the front? Literally, we're preaching to the choir. It used to be the choir was behind us. That was weird. I remember that. I mean, I visited the church here. This was much further out, and the choir was literally behind a wall. You didn't see them. They were mysteriously, somewhere. At least we can see them. But you're seeing them from the side, and you have to be saints to sit in the front. Why? Because if they announce a song and you don't hear it, what do you have to do? You have to crank your neck 180 degrees around behind you, and you have to look at it. And if Rami there, our director, is going to be, directing us, you can't see him. That's crazy. I want you to know, if you feel like that's crazy, that's normal. That is crazy. That's okay. That's weird. I mean, that's weird. At least I get to look at the choir. I get to preach to the choir. Okay, I don't want to rant, but that's an issue. The arrangement, it's a liturgical reason fundamentally why we want to do this. And we're talking about leveling this church all the way through the foundation. That means not even the foundation is left. We will start with a brand new foundation and build up. It's dramatic. It's bold. And I think it's the right thing to do. And that's not because I just think so, because I'm a liturgist. You know the difference between a liturgist and a terrorist? You can negotiate with a terrorist. But I got a person with a pointy hat behind me, Archbishop Sample. He says he wants a church that looks like a church and is beautiful. People have come into our church, new people, and they kind of go, that's a nice thing to say. Yeah, one of the parishioners last night after Mass, they said they were visiting down in California. A priest happened to be speaking to them about them visiting our church. They didn't say what church it was. And they described our church. And they said it was like a tennis court. People in the process of discernment what to do with this church said, let's make it into a gym. A gym? If that is the case, then we are way off. This should be taken down, not made into a gym. Then build a gym, if we're going to build a gym. But this is not good. So liturgical reasons, that's the bottom line. But so in the process of discerning this, we had engineers and other people come in to evaluate what to do. First of all, we were trying to retrofit this thing. But to do that, we'd have to take down all the walls. You just have the skeleton of these beams. They look like wood. They're actually steel. Nothing really supporting them. If an earthquake happens, not only is the weight of the roof a problem, you got dominoes happening with our struts here. Let's just pray between now and about a year from now that nothing happens. Nothing's happened for 60 years, so statistically we're okay, but run, Forrest, run if it happens, okay? So clearly we need to improve this place. Now, the church is the people, but the people gather in a space and it should inspire them. This is functional. As a liturgist, I give it a thumbs down. This is not good. We need to continue with the things that are good in here. We have beautiful statues. We have an altar. We have some things. But imagine we had padded pews. Ooh. Imagine, ladies, when you come in the church, you go only through the west side. This only works on the west side. You have to go to the restroom. How do you like that restroom? Isn't that the worst you've been in? There's one stall, right? A lot of people are probably thinking, okay, I'm going to this church, better take care of things before I get here. There's one stall. What happens if there were 4 stalls? You can't just bust out a wall, but there will be in the plan 4 stalls and ADA accessibility. Gentlemen, we have something less than a water closet. I was talking to Bob Bush again yesterday. He's telling me all kinds of history. I didn't know this. The door to the men's water closet, literally, is small. The door is not even standard size. It's smaller than a normal door. Now imagine you need to get in there and you got a wheelchair. We have people with wheelchair needs. It is not meeting those needs. So we'll have a bathroom for the men in the one narthex, not 2, that'll be bright and airy, where they have 3 stalls. That's good. That's wonderful. In addition, we have issues like when there's a crying baby and the mom or dad wants to take the child out. If you're going out this side, you lose because you're outside of the church. You can't see a thing through the wall. Over here you could. We have some glass windows there. But we're planning on putting in a cry room. Now, back in '94, we thought about rearranging this church. Some of you weren't here. I wasn't. But I've heard all kinds of stories. We were going to take the pews and spread them out as a fan. That's an option. I must tell you, there was a lot of arguing over things like, we shouldn't have like a philosophical reason. Shouldn't have a cry room. Yes, we should. I'm like, really, people? We're arguing about that? I am proud to say we've had no grand arguments. There's been the committee that I formed, the core building committee that's been with me for 3 years now. They've been serious about their thoughts and discussions, and there's been disagreements, but never, not once, was there a derogatory statement, a yelling, anything. It's all we're on the same page. People willing to talk about issues and also drop them. It's amazing. It's been a wonderful experience for me because I was very afraid, like, do I want to get involved in that? So that has not happened. It's wonderful. Here's some other things. We have these wonderful, well, we have windows anyway. Those are not very pretty, though what's outside them is, isn't it? So during the daylight, we get light coming in, but at nighttime, guess what goes out? The light. We're missing light. It's actually darker in here at night because of the windows. We have plans, and there's a sneak peek of the plans in your pews. If you just happen to look in your missalette, there's a prayer card with a picture there. It's okay, you can look. That is the entrance of the church that's pictured there. It's on the east side. And you notice there's a nice steeple there, and there is a Romanesque window, an arched window. That's what the windows will be down the side, up in the top part of this church. We'll show you the drawings in the future. So we're going to improve the bathrooms. We're going to have one entrance where everybody comes and goes. There'll be one large baptismal font. Instead of dragging out a baptismal font at Easter, we'll have one built in where everybody comes in, dips their hand in, and we can have immersion baptism if needed, if wanted. Our AV system, which often is a common complaint, by just turning the church 90 degrees will immediately change things for the better. But also we will deal with that. We are going to work on upgrading that. Right now, Shepherd of the Valley, who built their church, we're using them as a model, they didn't take into account sound abatement, meaning they have more echo than they thought they'd have. I'm like, welcome to the club. We know what that's like. We will work on that. So to address these and many other issues, we then are starting a capital campaign entitled Honoring Our Past, Building Our Future. And I think of Bob Bush as the quintessential person. I mean, we even have a driveway right here, the exit over in the back of the church, named for him because he's a pillar of our community. So I asked him yesterday, as I was talking to him about this project, I said, Bob, what do you think of this whole thing? His response was, it's about time. I'm like, whew, because we want to honor our past. This is not about burying the past. This is about taking the good things that they've done and standing on the shoulders of these giants so that we can then build something for the future. But this aim then to do this, we have a goal, and a minimum goal of $2.5 million. That's a serious goal. And I think we can make it. There's evidence to demonstrate we can. We also have a challenge goal of $3 million, which has been, if it happens, we'll set up a prudent reserve operational endowment fund so that with that money, if we put it in a bank and we invest it wisely, assuming like a 6% return on investment, that means we would maybe get $30,000 a year to go towards the maintenance of our buildings. See what happens? People do this. They build something, they don't think about that part. And what happens after they built it? It just every year deteriorates and deteriorates. If we keep it in good shape, then we don't have those issues. But here's what really jazzes me about this as a minister, because I know, okay, churches are churches. I've seen a lot, and it'll be beautiful. Fundamentally, it's about ministry. Then that'll actually free up money in our account of the church to actually employ more people and employ them at a decent, just wage. Everybody that works for the church here at St. Anne's are certainly stewards and people of great heart and faith, because I'm ashamed to say that we don't pay them what they should be paid. But I can't just say, hey, everybody, let's have a fundraiser for increasing, those things. Those aren't jazzy. Nobody wants to do that. So the benefit of this building project is it also leverages the ability to do better ministry. So in order to reach our financial objectives in this regard, we will need both a substantial number of givers, it's a lot of people, and a few fairly substantial gifts. Everyone is going to be asked to participate in giving gifts above and beyond what they give in the offertory. And this is important. I don't want, as pastor, to encourage anybody to say, well, I'll just stop giving to the normal offertory and give to this campaign. Oh, no. That'll collapse us immediately. We have to pay our bills. We have to pay our lights, et cetera, the heating bill, et cetera. So just continue with what you normally do and ask yourself, what may I give? That's going to be something that we may approach you about and offer some suggestion. So the idea then is going to be, everybody's going to be asked to consider a gift of something like 5-year pledge. So that you would say, well, because I can't do all of it in 1 year, spread it out over 5 years. People then might be able to give more if they can in that regard. I'm doing that myself. There's also non-cash gifts like property and other things, deferred gifts that may be part of a bequest or insurance. And we will have ways to help you understand how you might be able to participate in that way. So our campaign will officially commence, not today, this is what we call announcement weekend, but coming up, we'll call it the campaign kickoff celebration. We will begin it on October 16 at 7 p.m. in our Sky Room. So that's in a couple of weeks. We'll announce it again. Information is in the bulletin about the details I just described, as well as that. And everyone is invited, all parishioners. The campaign, know this, will conclude, hopefully, and culminate, I should say, on December 3rd and 4th, when we will then have what is called Commitment Weekend. We've done something like this with our offertory program annually, which we're canceling. We're not going to do that. We're going to focus on the capital campaign. But then we will then, on that date, be visiting people, face to face, either having you come see us or we'll go to your house. There'll be phone calls going on. There's going to be a lot of activity, but we need lots of people to help out. So I have 3 requests. First request is this. Please pray for this campaign. Please pray that God's will be done. Now, again, I said, I don't know what God's will is, but we will only know if we put all our energy towards a goal. And if it happens, that's God's will. If it doesn't, that's God telling us, this is not for you and not for now. Secondly, please prayerfully consider helping out by becoming a volunteer in the campaign. We need at least over 100 individuals, and ideally couples, to assist in the campaign in a variety of ways to assure that the efforts are efficiently done and run, that the job of volunteering is fun and enjoyable. So I am pleased to announce today the names of the persons that have already come forward, and they're part of a cabinet. And some of them are here. So as I name them off, you can wave your hand, you don't have to stand up, but I'd like to present, first of all, Dave and Danetta Thomason, who are over here, I see you, hello, as well as Kirk and Jamie Chapman. I don't see them, but they, along with Bill Bailey and Maureen Bailey, are our campaign chairpersons. They are kind of the ones leading the way, and I need them. They're people that are business persons. I'm not a business person. We need people that have that expertise. That's very important. But there's other chairpersons in this cabinet. We have Dave and Terry Curry. They're not here today. Glenn and Sandy Walker, I think I saw them over there, right? We have then Phil and Barb Bush, who were here yesterday, and Mike and Kathy Bird, they're right here. And they're part of the prayer, the hospitality, the youth and children's communications and creative giving committees. So we've broken it up into little parts. So I want to ask that you would join me, because those individuals have made a dedication of time, talent, and also financial commitment to this adventure. And I want to ask all of us if you would join me in thanking them just for stepping forward at this time. So thank you so much. Yeah. So towards this goal, we've included in your pews not only that prayer card, but you'll notice there's a blue card. It says volunteer willingness card. See, we need volunteers. St. Anne's has been historically known for just knocking it out of the park when we have a need to step up to that need. So I'd ask you to take that card. There should be pens in the pews there to start filling it out if you want to volunteer. The bulletin will have some more details on how to, but we're just asking, would you be open to helping in some way? It could be simple, could be whatever it is, it's your commitment level. And then eventually I'm going to ask the ushers to come forward and collect them here after I'm done with my remarks. Finally, third and finally, you all, myself included, are going to be asked to support the campaign financially. We need and ask that whatever you can give is ultimately a decision on your own, but not something instead of the offertory. It's something over and above our offertory, so that we can not only do the ministry, but we won't jeopardize our ministry, that we can also then complete this project, which is an amazing one. It's a bold one. And it's within our financial range. Believe me, we've done a lot of work to make sure we're not doing something that can't be done. So also, you may still have questions, because I'm not telling you everything, because this homily can go on forever. You're probably thinking, come on, Father Bill, enough is enough. There's, in the entrances, both entrances, the narthexes, there is a box, a drop box where you can put a question. There's even cards there, question cards. And just write a question on there. If you'd please give me your name and number, we will get back to you to try to answer that question. So there's a way to do that. Through the prayerful and the volunteers and the financial support of all of us in this extraordinary event, we can have confidence that we will succeed. At this time then, if you've not done it yet, please fill out that card, just that willingness card. I'm going to ask the ushers here in a moment to then gather them. Once you are done filling it out, if you could then just move it off to the center of the pews, that'll make it easiest for us to pick up. By doing this, by having a lot of volunteers, we create a kind of a bandwagon of enthusiasm. Some of us might be saying, well, I don't know, I don't know anybody. Well, you know what? The cabinet did not know each other, not everybody. And it's been amazing to watch them when we have had our meetings to say, oh, hey, I've heard your name, but I've never met you. It has come true, what I was told by the campaign director. This will grow the church and community. We will come to know each other. We will meet people we've never met. And that's if we're bold, if we do what we're called to do. And I'm going to do that. I'd ask you to volunteer, to consider how you might be able to help out. You will meet people you've never met before. And that's what it is to be part of a community. Catholics are not solo artists. We don't just come to Mass, offer Mass, and then leave and never talk or be with anybody. It is called to be community, because that really is a poverty. I mean, in so many ways. When things are down, you don't have anybody you know. When you know people, they come and they help. This community has been awesome at that. And so at this time, then, I'd like to ask our ushers to just come down the center here. And if everybody could push whatever cards they filled out to the center. And if you're a visitor, by the way, just pray for us. It's great to have you. Just come on down here to the center and then take up the cards. Did the choir get these cards? Were there some in the center? Yeah, there were. Okay, good. Finally, as they're doing this, remember you saw that card with the picture that was called the elevation of the entrance of the church? On the reverse side is a prayer. You may have noticed at the beginning of Mass we didn't do our Year of Mercy prayer. We're going to go ahead and close that off. We're still in the Year of Mercy, but now we need to focus our attention on this capital campaign. Going forward, at the end of all of our Sunday Masses, we're going to be then reading that as the conclusion of the prayers of the faithful. So the priest will remind you after every Mass to pull out the card, hopefully before the prayers of the faithful, so you have it ready. And then we'll pray the prayers of the faithful, and then together we'll read that prayer. God bless you. Thank you again for listening to this episode of the Father Bill's podcast. And as we are gearing up for this capital campaign, obviously anybody that wants to be part of it would be a great help. So as a listener, if you want to be part of that, we will be having a special website, or a special part of our website, Main&nbsp.com, focused on that. And then you'll be able to make a donation right from the website there. So, and I'll let you know exactly what that web page is. But for the now, Main&nbsp.com has our prayer that we will be doing. And as I mentioned at the end of the homily, our honoring our past and building our future campaign prayer. And so I'd like to add with that, if that's okay with you, and I ask you to join me in that prayer. So Lord, divine architect, creator of our human family, risen Jesus, cornerstone of our faith, lover of us all, spirit of wisdom, builder of community, our inspiration and guide, you call us to build up your kingdom. Bless us with generous hearts, open minds, greater unity, renewed vision, as we seek to build a house for worship and celebration. May it be a home where all are welcomed, nourished, and empowered to be Christ for others. Amen. And may God bless you all, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.